Happy Friday. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And yesterday, if you were a Star Wars fan, you celebrated May the 4th be with you. And if you are maybe on the other side, the dark side of things, people are celebrating May the 5th be with you, except it's really the 6th and the 5th. Again, great time to be a Star Wars fan, especially because they have so many things coming out. I don't know if anyone got a chance to power through or watch the Mando season 3, which was fantastic. Ahsoka is coming this summer. That's going to be an amazing series. So, as long as they keep Favreau, which there's some questions about whether or not he stays, and John and Dave Filoni, as long as those two are a part of Star Wars, we're going to be okay. Not so much with anyone else running Star Wars because, well, the last couple of movies have not been good. But, folks, listen, it's Friday. It's the new episode of Breakfast with Boom. And we are coming off of a monster, absolutely monster interview with Phil Spencer and the Kind of Funny X-Cast. That was just astounding. Look, they don't know who I am. I know Paris knows who I am because he follows me and I follow Paris. But the hard-hitting questions that they asked were on point. They were current. They didn't pull any punches. I got to give them I have to give everyone on the XCast panel a huge applause. First of all, I never downplay someone's success. I think that we should never do that. We should rise, lift everybody up. And if you missed that interview, which I've watched 5 times, so I'm part of the nearly 175,000 views that this video got for Kind of Funny, and I couldn't be happier. I think that they do. I'm a big fan of Greg Miller. I've been a fan of him since the IGN days. He's a Sony guy. There's nothing wrong with that. I like his content. I like his sensibility. And I really do dig many of the people over at Kind of Funny Games, as well, of course, as watching the XCast as I do. So that was a fantastic interview. We're going to be breaking down that interview. And I've already kind of had a chance to speak my piece. I sat down yesterday with I Steel Rain for almost 90 minutes. And we broke down pretty much everything that Phil Spencer had to say. And there was a lot there. Now, the one thing that's a little aggravating and it's a little frustrating is people who are looking for clickbait or looking for clout to, pile on, if you will, are twisting his words as if some of the bad takes I've seen is, well, you see, he admits that Xbox is in third place and they can't catch up to PlayStation, so they're going to leave the business. I mean, listen, you're entitled to your opinion, but if you're saying that, I think you might want to rewatch the interview or in better take it in print form, so maybe you attain some more of it. I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot that I took from this interview about the future of the box, more so the future of Redfall. I am 20 hours in. I have done every side mission. I've opened up and unlocked every safe house and did every mission there. I'm coming close to the end. When I beat it, I'm probably going to start it with another character. I'm just having a lot of fun with it. I really am. Yes, folks, there's a ridiculously ton of problems, and there are some real quality of life issues that need to be addressed. But I will say, for me, one of the big takeaways is his commitment to not just walking away from this game. And I think that is incredibly important. And I have a feeling, folks, that we could see Redfall become the next Sea of Thieves or the next Grounded, where it did release in a bit of a rough state. And then a year later, this is an entirely different game and everything is running on all cylinders. I mean, listen, Arcane, Austin, they know what they're doing. They were a little bit out of their depth with this particular game because they're usually single player. They're usually story driven. This is a multiplayer open world. Again, is the game absolutely unplayable? Maybe for some people, not for me. I'm really enjoying it. But We're also going to get into the second half of the show. My personal excitement now, even more so, has been turned up to 11 for June. Paris Lily asked some really hard hitting questions about June, about certain games for updates. And he particularly mentioned Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 3. He mentioned Fable. He mentioned Avowed. And we learned right from Phil Spencer that we are going to be shown games that we've never seen before. And we're going to get updates. And he said specifically to games on your list. Now, he didn't specifically say what those games were, but just use your imagination. And there was one other thing. I have not seen anyone report on this. I'm probably not going to get credit for it. Like I said, I've watched it at least 5 times. Um, when he was talking about 2023, and he said, "Hey, this is a good year. It started off as a good year. Then we have this bump in the road, but we have Starfield, we have Motorsport." And he said, "We have Hellblade," and he stopped. He paused himself. I am now in the 1000th degree belief, folks, that Hellblade is releasing this year, probably for holiday. And listen, I mean, again, is it a slip up? I don't know. I know that they had the what's on Phil's shelf. We talked about that. He has that new handheld that looks. I'm buying the new handheld. I'm going to sell my Steam Deck because Steam Deck's well over my head. This over here comes with Windows and it's going to be preloaded with Game Pass, and that's all I got to do is just push a button and play. That's why I'm getting it. The Asus or the Asus, it looks amazing, and it's a powerhouse. But I've talked enough, folks. We got to get introduced to the amazing panel and the returning one, Crispy Bomb. How you feeling, Crispy? Welcome back to the panel, brother. It's good to have you here.
Oh man, Boom! It's good to be back. It's been far too long, and life has brought me back home. So it is great to be here. Yes, allergies are kicking my butt, or I would be on camera. Maybe I'll make an appearance as a Captain Xbox at some point. But yeah, I mean, and we got to look at this way. What else is this man supposed to do? He took it on the
Exactly.
chin.
Yep.
He even talked like somebody might be in my place someday, and you know
Yep.
what? It might be rightfully so. But until then, Phil, salute to you, man. You took it on the chin, and we got a lot of little tidbits that we're going to get into. Definitely a interesting interview. And shout out to the Kind of Funny XCast. And also, I have a different opinion about Greg Miller after watching like the after show they did. He did not pile on.
No.
He was very, very forthright and actually pretty happy with what he heard. So I was pretty impressed all around from Kind of Funny. That was definitely interesting, and we definitely got to get into it.
Yeah, again, as a podcaster, right? I know that there are some people that want to be on the show, which of course we're open to bringing new voices. So if you ever want to jump on and obviously you keep yourself from cursing and you maintain your decorum, I'm always willing to bring on new people. For me, as a podcaster who's been doing this now for 5 years, I've had a couple of goals and I've met a few of them. There is one though, and I'm going to throw it out to the ether. I don't think anybody from XCast or even Kind of Funny Games is listening to this show. And, I mean, again, it's a small show, folks. I want to be a guest on the XCast with Gary Whitta, with Paris Lily, and of course, Snowbike Mike. Now, is that ever going to happen? Probably not. But you have to have a bucket list, folks. That's one of mine. I've followed them for years. I've supported Game Over Greggy's everything he's done. I've been a part of it because like I said, I really do like Greg Miller. He is a funny dude, and he started from the ground up, and he built this empire that known as Kind of Funny. And maybe it's not your thing, and if it's not your thing, I hear you, but it's my thing, and that's why I support them. But Web Dave, you, my friend, have been exploding on the scene with incredible interview after interview after interview. Your Sunday show with Retri from Game Pass _daily is one of my favorites to listen to while I'm cleaning. Usually I watch it in full the next day.
Thanks, man.
How are you doing, dude?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing really well. This last Sunday show with Doom Cutie and Post Up was absolutely off the chains. We went
Phenomenal.
over 2.5 hours with our biggest view count to date. We had almost 100 people live with us at one time, which for a show starting off. That's really good, and I'm very happy with those numbers. And then the after view count has been through the roof, so can't complain at all. We're growing, and we appreciate everybody. But I do have one thing to say, and that is this Sunday's guest is a do not miss.
Yeah, do not do. We'll sell your brand afterwards, but keep the people guessing and waiting. But folks, I can tell you, it's a big one. It's definitely a big one.
And we only need one. We just the one.
Just the one for sure. Yep. Fuzzy Belvedere. I mean, good morning, brother. How are you feeling? We're seeing the toxic community and the trolls come out for Phil Spencer's head. And I gotta say, you know what I found very impressive is the fact that he mentioned, I see the hashtag fire Phil Spencer.
Yeah,
like for him to acknowledge that is bonkers. And I'll say this: if you're one of those people that think that he should be fired, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but I disagree 1,000%. I said this to King David when we were talking. I said, I don't want a Jim Ryan or a Bowser who runs Nintendo running the company for Xbox that are just a part of the company and have their only aspect into gaming is the fact that they are in a position of gaming. Phil's a gamer. And he understands our disappointment. He understands what we want. He said it. We're gonna break it down. How are you feeling this morning, Fuzzy?
Well, I'm doing great, and there's going to be a lot for us to get into later. But man, oh man, kind of blew through Jedi Survivor after the most recent patch. Roll credits on it. Great game, predictable story, but still enjoyed it. Played a couple hours of Redfall. I think I'm going to wait for more patches or updates to kind of, push through that. I didn't want to have too much of a negative taste of it in its early stages. I mean, it was kind of a similar deal with, Sea of Thieves and things like that, and even Grounded for that matter. But we'll get into that as well. And then, man, just Twitter, it never ceases to amaze me. It's like just before big showcase, it's like negative story after negative story after negative story. So it's almost like someone's purposely trying to kill the momentum or any excitement prior to the showcase, and it never seems to fail. Although some of it is Xbox stepping on rakes, much like Sony has done earlier in the year. But we'll definitely get into it. But man, glad to be here with you guys. So much to talk about. Let's do this.
Yeah, you know what? Let me just grab the first 4 super chats of the day. The first one comes to our very good friend Sith Lord, who's been a channel member for over a year. So thank you so much for the generosity, brother. He drops a $2 super chat and says, "Happy Revenge of the 5th. Give in to the dark side." I can't. I'm sorry, brother. I don't even play a bad guy in games. That's my moral compass will not allow me. It's crazy. Raiden Blade has been also a channel member for over a year. Thanks so much for the generosity, my brother. He says this after dropping a £2 super chat: "No one noticed Phil's TTS in that interview." What does TTS stand for? I don't know. Maybe because I'm old.
Talk that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, he was salty, folks, and that's saying a lot because you never really see Phil. I mean, he said it. He goes, "I'm cranky Phil Spencer," because he's disappointed. He's disappointed in himself. He's disappointed in the brand. He's the face, and he has to take on all of this. And he did it as you would expect a good leader to do. He put it on his shoulders, and he's carrying this. And he said it. He said it multiple times. I can't tell you to be excited until you have the controller in your hand and you're playing and you're smiling. I don't know what else people want him to say. I think he said everything he needed to say and that and a bag of chips. But 901 the Gamer, who's been a channel member for almost a year too. Wow, brother, thank you so much for that. He does this. So shout out to you for being here. And of course, thank you for the generosity as always. Tim the Sorcerer, who's been a channel member for 6 months, drops a £2 super chat and says, "Even in the state, I'm loving Redfall. Core is good." Yeah, it has good bones. It has really strong bones. Folks, like I said, I'm 20 hours in. I have about 360 achievements unlocked. A lot of them are weird, the achievements. But like I said, I'm having fun. I mean, it is what it is. Now, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, I can't believe you're playing the game." Don't play it, man. That's all I can tell you. I'm enjoying it because I'm having fun with it. But I said my piece yesterday, and I'll chime in, but I want to go to the panel, and I really want to bring the chat involved in this because now 24 hours has passed. We've seen a lot of really good stories, and we've seen a lot of really bad takes. I'm not going to mention names because we don't name the names here because I don't want you going after somebody and like, oh, Boom told me to go after you. We don't do that. So obviously, have your opinion and stay with it. But Crispy, I want to go to you first because the question that I have for you specifically is your honest takeaway from what Phil Spencer said during this near 30-minute interview.
I mean, we have so much to go through. I will say, like, overall, he was pissed. He's upset with himself probably more than anything. You see it in his face. He didn't even know, really, the entailment of what was transpiring until it actually happened. And I feel like, the way he broke down the fact that, when these games are like, we'll say halfway through development or something like that, they probably take a more hands-off approach. We got that little tidbit about Starfield really being early. And you saw, like, you started hearing that they were sending a lot of people from Microsoft/Xbox over there to help with the game. And that kind of peeled back the curtain, and I appreciate that from him. I think it was very forthright. He probably said that Hellblade thing by accident and might have spoiled it if you read between the tea leaves, but at the same time, our excitement, can be a little bit higher, in my opinion, than usual. I think his anger and his responses and his also, understanding that this is not what us as Xbox gamers expected. Is it as bad as some people are making it out to be? I don't think so. But as far as he's concerned, it's bad enough to take it on the chin like that. And and really, like, Snowbike and Greg, after they did this little after show, really talked about the fact that they were expecting them to cancel. It is a normal process for them. They wouldn't have been mad at all, and they said that. And for him to come on there when the show was already scheduled and it was supposed to be a good show, it was supposed to be talking about how great Redfall is and everything else, and really to come back to it and say, no, I'm not going to cancel. We're going. And for them to really ask the questions that needed to be asked. This wasn't a hurrah or ignore what is going on. This was a very, forthright, hey, like, what is going on? And I think Phil was really able to peel back the curtain a little bit and say, we've got to reevaluate our process, especially on games that are, partially in development already. And we felt, trust in, I mean, he's got to trust his teams. Let's be honest here. You can't just sit here and say, I'm going to send in the cavalry for every game. I mean, you wouldn't have enough people eventually. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, they thought the game was better than it was. They do metrics. They do, mock reviews. As he said, he peeled back a lot of stuff that, we knew that was there, but he really, really, like, told us flat out, this is what it is. And I really appreciate that. Not everything has to be a secret. And I think, what I take from this right now is that we're going to see a lot more transparency on how things are going to run on our console. And we have felt at times like we are second class to PC when it comes to Xbox. You know what I'm saying? It all the features are on PC, and then we're sitting here like, bro, what about us? So I think that's going to change from his demeanor, from his anger. I think these teams are going to rally around him because, like everyone has seen, he took it on the chin. He blamed himself more than anything else. And that is important as a leader. So I saw a leader. I saw somebody that I want to be the head of Xbox, and I'm going to leave it there for now.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're going to be dancing around this topic because this is a multi-tiered conversation. I'm starting off with the softball questions because I have all of his quotes. I pulled an article from VGC, which, I normally do. I really do like their work. I like Andy and his team. I've been a big fan of their work for a long time. Yes, I know that we got it wrong a couple of months, saying a few things that might have been inappropriate or clickbaity. We all make mistakes. VGC for me is still one of my go-to news sources, outside, of course, of Windows Central and a few others. I want to give Dave this question. Dave, obviously, we were wondering, I think a lot of the Xbox community was wondering who was going to respond. Was it going to be Bethesda? Was it going to be Pete Hines? Was it going to be the head of Arcane, Austin? It turns out that the head of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer, took the baton and ran. And he knew he was running into a barn on fire. He knew it. And Gary Whitta told a pretty interesting story that I wasn't even unaware of. And I loved it. That's what I love about Gary. I love about Paris, and I love about Snowbike, is that they incorporate past things into the current conversation. And he specifically said that in 2020, Phil Spencer was supposed to come on his Animal Crossing show. And he actually said the dumb or the stupid Animal Crossing show, which is hilarious. I mean, that's great. And it was a time where it was announced that Halo Infinite was going to be delayed and not launched with the console. That's a big deal. And he said it. Gary would have said it, that he expected the other shoe to drop, meaning that Phil was gonna get a call from PR and say, listen, we just canceled, we just delayed Halo. Phil's not gonna be able to come on. And Phil Spencer came on that show, answered a bunch of tough questions. Again, this is according to Gary Whitta, and he has a tremendous amount of respect for him doing that. And he goes, here we are again. This is what a leader does. He goes, whoever it is, man, woman, whatever, whoever the leader of a particular platform or company does, is when there are problems, they don't hide behind their position. A real leader takes it head on and deals with the controversy. I think that's exactly what Phil did. Now, there's still no excuses, folks. Let's understand this. I'm not making excuses for Arcane, for Xbox, for Phil Spencer, for anyone. I'm not paid that much, so I'm not going to take on that responsibility. They, meaning Xbox, Phil Spencer and company, have a responsibility to deliver quality games. He said that, so I'm not shining off anything of what has happened. Redfall released broken. I'm still having fun with it, and I can only imagine what it's going to look like a year from now if they stay true to what he said about not giving up on the game. That to me has me excited. But Dave, I want to get your actual takeaways from this entire interview, which I think is now remember, these things are scheduled way in advance. Phil or PR didn't call kind of funny and say, hey, Paris, can I come on the show? So it just happened to be that he was scheduled probably to talk about the success of Redfall, and that wasn't the case. What were your personal takeaways of what Phil had to say?
Well, I guess the biggest takeaway is that Phil Spencer is definitely the right man in the right position right now for Xbox, because his professionalism, his passion for gaming, and also the company that he works for shows. And he wears his heart on his sleeve a lot of the times, but he'll let you know that he and you've met him personally, so let's just get that out of the way, that you've that because a lot of people say it, when you meet him in person, he's so nice, he
is who he is.
Yeah,
he is exactly who you see. Like, again, I am unbelievably grateful and very fortunate that this small channel is recognized by Xbox, and it had an opportunity to meet Phil. And I can tell you, I can't tell you everything we spoke about because it's private, but I can tell you that he is as a regular dude and as welcoming and just one of the guys that you could possibly imagine. What you see is exactly who Phil Spencer is. It's not a facade, folks.
Right. And that's what we need from the leader of Xbox. We need somebody that's that way. Because he wants the Xbox brand to succeed. He is focused on what they need to move forward in the industry and to hopefully eventually get them out of third place, hopefully in the second, eventually the first. And he's the one, I believe, in the long run. I believe in Phil that he can take us there, that he can actually get the company where it needs to go. His interview, obviously, it was scheduled, and that's the nice thing about Phil is that he doesn't stand down. I mean, obviously, all interviews like that, and I respect this too. They're recorded. Once they're done, they are resubmitted.
And you would know that because you do these interviews.
I've done a few interviews where I've had to do this. Now I haven't interviewed Phil yet. He's on my list, my wish list. But yeah, they have to be resubmitted back to Microsoft. They review them just to make sure that there was no slip ups or mistakes that can't pass. In other words, like if it's a clear, blatant either mistake or too much information, because that can happen when you're in I've had conversational podcasts. That's what I do in my interviews. And there's been times when, especially when I've interviewed Dave Snyder, who is a special effects makeup artist, great friend of mine, grew up with him, but he works on a lot of movies, and there's a lot of things that he can't say about projects and things he's working on that sometimes in a casual conversation like that we have on my program, sometimes there's been several times when he's like, slipped up, and afterwards, after we get done, he's like, "Hey, can we edit that out?" And I'm like, "No, not a problem." So I go in and edit it out, and and then we'll and go with it. Fair. The audience is none the wiser, as it were. So, but that's what they do, and it's not that they're trying to keep certain secrets from people. It's that it protects the brand. There's certain things, and I'm sure if he had let something really big slip, as far as an actual a guarantee that this certain game is going to be at the showcase, or this is guaranteed to be a release at the end of the year, they probably would have made him take that out. But the way he worded it, it was vague enough that it's got our hopes up. And I believe that you're right. I believe that that's something that's probably gonna happen. And I'm more excited about it now, about the showcase coming up. But I will say that he didn't have to. A lot of people are saying, well, of course he had to. I mean, technically he didn't. He could have narrowed the interview down to certain types of questions or whatever. He pretty much left it open to anything that they wanted to come at him with. And I'm sure there were certain guidelines or certain things that he can't mention yet. I know for a fact that that if you can't ask him directly about when is the family plan going to release in America, because he won't answer that question, because there's some things that they have in the works throughout the year that's when it needs to be announced, kind of thing. So with that said, and that's still not giving anything away, that like I said, his interview was great. It was at a time when you could feel by just watching him, he was up, he wasn't happy, and he even said himself, he's kind of being grumpy Phil and stuff, and they wanted to well, let's end it on a good note, kind of thing, and they brought it back. It was a great interview. They did a fantastic job, and they were under a lot of pressure too, because I'm sure there were people going, well, you should ask a tougher question, and you should have done this, and you should have followed up with this. And I was watching PM in the PM, which was a great episode with Pong and Mav, and Pong made the comment that if we ever get to interview Phil, we're going to focus on all the questions and get everything in that we can, as much time as we can. There will be no side chatty questions. There'll be no, what are you playing, Phil? Nothing like that. It'll be question after question, because you only have them for a limited amount of time, kind of thing. And I thought for the most part, they did that. So it was well done. it was impressive, and that he stood up and took the heat, because that's what a lot of the interview was. He should be commended. And I'm not saying, put him up on a pedestal and Phil can do no wrong. He clearly told you in the interview, as honestly as he could, how he felt that things happened, what they're doing about it, which he didn't have to do that, and that he's, the game's not dead. They're going to continue to work to make it better. And with their track record for games like Sea of Thieves and other games that they've had to work with to get them up to a phenomenal status, I think that was that's the right thing, and it's a good thing to hear. That's I know you've enjoyed playing Redfall. What's what you're playing on the screen now, and I've only played an hour of it so far, so I will get into it more this week coming up because I'm on vacation. Yes,
Nice.
But yeah, so it's absolutely his takeaway, or my takeaway from Phil, was that he did a good job. He put us. I feel more comfortable now going forward, and I'm really excited for the June showcase. I think that the showcase is going to be, anything bad, let's put it behind us and let's move forward. And when June comes and they give us all this information, and then we also see the Starfield information, whatever that is, whether it's 30 or 60, hopefully from the way he came off, I think we'll at least know then what it's going to be and what's expected on release. So, but anyway, that's what I got on it, man.
Yeah, no,
Sorry,
again, folks, we're gonna be this is just our initial opening conversation. There's a lot of minutia to get into. Again, I have to break it down in a way that makes sense. I want to get Fuzzy's take on the overall interview for him personally, as a gamer, as an Xbox gamer. What was it meaningful enough? But before I get to you, Fuzzy, I just want to catch up on the super chats. Been quite a few of them. Dreadful Sean, who's been a channel member for over 3 months. Thank you so much for that, brother. He says Phil also had the ROG Alley on his shelf behind him. I expect to see some type of deal with that soon. I believe they're going to be marketing with them. I also have read that 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate is going to come with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine that because Windows 11 is going to be preloaded and not side-loaded, and like you do with the Steam Deck, it's going to be as easy. I would imagine that the Xbox Game Pass app is going to be there. Literally, you just press on the screen and you sign in and you'll be good to go. That's why I want it, because I as great as the Steam Deck has proven to be, it's well over my head. I bought it because I got it at a really good price. And it's just over my head. It's just I'm not a PC guy, so I don't appreciate it. I'm more of a give me the handheld, push a button, play the game, and I'm happy. That's what I want. So that's why I'm going to get this, and I'm going to probably wind up getting the most expensive one, because that one I think is like $6.99 or whatever it is has all the bells and whistles. Drawn TJ, what's going on, brother? How are you feeling? I'm going to get to your super chat that I missed yesterday. He drops a $2 super chat and says, hello, everyone, and hello to you as well. Mike Clark in the chat. Welcome, Mike. He drops a $2 super chat and says, shout out to Shooter. Haven't seen him. Yeah, I haven't seen him either. I hope that that Shooter is, in fact, doing well. I'm going to reach out to him via DM and just check on him. Philip is a good dude, and he's gone through some tough things, and he's been soldiering on, as you would expect him to do. So thank you so much for that. Black Sausage in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I think what we need is a hybrid of Phil and Jim, someone who owns mistakes, but is also cutthroat with deals and marketing the competition, making the competition non-existent. I mean, I suppose, but I mean what that for me would be, that means that we'd have to get rid of Phil Spencer, and I don't think that's such a great idea. I think Phil is doing everything. Okay, so there's been some bumps in the road, right? You might not agree with all his decisions. You want him to be more cutthroat. I hear it all, and guess what? He hears it all also. There is something to be said about doing things your way, and his way is being a good guy and keeping himself humbled in the position that he's in, which he has proven time and time again, and delivering. Now, have they always delivered? No. And he admits that in this interview, as he has done when they have made boo-boos before. I like what Phil is doing. I like I mean, do I want them to go on? My only beef, if I were to have a concern or a complaint about the way Phil Spencer runs Xbox is, and again, I'm not a marketing manager, folks. I don't have a degree. I'm just a knucklehead podcaster. One of the things that seemed to be absent, and it's a licensing thing, and Phil's talked about that. And this is where I disagree with Phil Spencer. I think there is something to be said, folks, about having Zeitgeist IP be associated with your brand. And what I mean by that is how Sony does it. Sony has Spider-Man locked behind in a safe, locked in another safe, and what they do is they leverage their movie connections of the Sony Spider-Man with the MCU and being a part of that to having Spider-Man only be on PlayStation. That's good business. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. It sucks, but that's just good business. But outside of Marvel, right, which we know is locked into the PlayStation brand, they now have the Wizarding World in Hogwarts, which sold more consoles than they've ever sold at any one PlayStation time in the universe. That's a big deal. They have associations and brand recognition with Star Wars because they had the marketing rights for that. They also lapped up the marketing rights for DC because their marketing rights. Well, now Suicide Squad, I mean, we don't know if it's going to be terrible or not, but it's still a Zeitgeist IP. We need some of that from Xbox. And I know that they don't want us, they want to have full control and they want to own IP and they want to own, brands. But if you want to appeal to the masses, you need to have Zeitgeist IP. They don't have that. They've made some marketing deals, yes, but not of some of the big things that the normies look at and see. You know how many people still to this day tell me the Hogwarts Legacy is a PlayStation exclusive? Is that not crazy? It is. It's crazy because it's not. But people who are not in the trenches of the Twitter wars and the trolls versus the trolls, they don't know anything. They just like, hey, PlayStation Blue, great. It's got it's Spider-Man. I'm going over. They need Zeitgeist. So that's where I differ with Phil. I can't complain about the way he's doing his business. Yes, they failed sometimes, sure. But listen, you cannot say that they have not made huge strides as a platform to not only give you value with a streaming service that's second to none, but with good games. Okay, the God of War-esque games that you want, that you're asking for, and I know who it is in the chat, I want those too, because that's why I have a PlayStation 5, and I think we're going to get that with Fable. I think we're going to get that with Senua, but only time is going to tell. Fuzzy, let's get your takeaway, and then we're going to break down in a couple of parts this interview because, like I said, VGC did a really good job of specifically breaking down some certain quotes that I think are going to be great for conversation. But as a fan of Xbox, did Phil Spencer stand up and take the arrows?
He definitely did, and that's what you expect out of a good leader. He took he fell on the sword for his team. Basically shielded them or protected them from some of the criticisms, and basically the buck stops with him. It all comes down to he's at the top of the spectrum, so he's going to have to answer to a lot of these questions. Now, behind the scenes, he can ask those questions of that team and those involved, but he definitely owned the issues found with that title, as well as other looming questions and things like that. As far as the interview, kudos to him for being able to stand there and pretty much take the heat, basically. Yeah, I don't know. my overall picture now, it's not that I don't have confidence or trust in the brand or in Phil, but at, when it comes to Redfall, I've been probably saying this in DMs for a bit now. I get this impression that somebody at Bethesda did not like the acquisition, and it seems like Phil is the type of guy that will, you know, give the instructions, be with the team, meet with them, and then expect that the leadership that is in place of that team to kind of carry those things out. And on occasion he'll check back, but then there's like the middle management in between him and that team, which would be whether it be Todd or Pete Hines, one of the two, or maybe somebody that I'm not aware of that's in that leadership position over at Bethesda. I feel that they let him down in the sense of not getting to the crux of the 60 frames thing until, you know, a couple of months out type of deal. So that there's definitely, whether it's a communication issue or something to that effect, there's definitely something going on. So I don't want to necessarily put all of the blame on him, but then again, he is the one at the top of the food chain. So he's going to have to take a step back and figure out how to get that fixed or resolved.
I think who you're talking about specifically, and I have to make mention of this because obviously this is I don't know anybody in the business a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I come here, I give you guys truth, I give you integrity, and I give you my honest opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And who you're specifically talking about, and this is where Phil needs to kind of tighten the ship a little bit, because I feel that this story that broke on IGN, the guy I'm going to tell you about overstepped or overplayed his hand as part of Xbox. Because yes, you are a part of Arcane Studios, but you're owned by Microsoft. And what I'm talking about is, and who I'm talking about is Arcane's Harvey Smith. This guy, I don't know who he is, but he literally shook the foundation of not only the Redfall,
Mm-hmm.
and made all of this Twitter war shenanigans, but he might have had a hand in having the actual ABK deal get on some shaky ground, because he was interviewed and he specifically said, and I have it in front of me, his quote is, let's see, where is it? Right here. I had it. Arcane's Harvey Smith explained, "We got bought by Microsoft, and that was a huge sea change. No PlayStation 5 version was made. We were told to let me get the exact quote. Where is it here? I'll get it in a second. I'll read his exact quote because I literally just pulled this up. Normally I have this in front of me. He specifically broke the news, folks, that Redfall was originally being developed as a multi-plat. And when Microsoft purchased Bethesda, Xbox basically said, stop working on the PlayStation version. This is going to be for Xbox. There is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. They honored Ghostwire Tokyo. They honored Deathloop. Those were in contracts. And I have to say this. I've said this 1,000 times, folks. When I tell you this is the way the business works, and people are like, well, that's still not fair. I didn't get Redfall, and I'm glad I didn't. Well, it has been confirmed numerous times that PlayStation tried to lock up Starfield as a lifelong exclusive.
Oh, yes.
And then Microsoft bought instead of the cow, they bought the whole entire farm. So let's if you're going to use the argument of this is not fair, they tried to get Starfield. That's a confirmed fact, folks. So if you're going to use that argument, make sure you don't forget about that. But please continue, Fuzzy.
But it just seems like there's someone on the inside there that is not on the same page. And I don't know if it's Harvey Smith or if it's someone else, but there's definitely some disgruntledness, I would say, within Bethesda. Now, are there other things that they need to look at? Sure. Like the process itself, as far as the, mock reviews and whatnot, and the play testing. I don't know if there's like a scared to speak up type of thing, or that some people are at the point where they've spoken up in the past and nothing resulted. So there's some friction or miscommunication there as well. But those are things that hopefully they can focus on and fix. But my overall takeaway from the interview is not that Phil should go or anything like that. My bigger takeaway would be looking at how Phil has moved up the ladder within Microsoft and has a full seat at the table. I think there's been a bit of a vacuum. Like, and I don't want to say it's anything like the Bonnie Ross issue where, after they kind of ushered her out of the building, they've replaced her position with 3 different leadership positions. I feel that there should be either, and I know Xbox was at its best when Phil was the head of just Xbox, but now he's part or the head of Microsoft Gaming. I think his overall vision for the overall brand and where the brand is headed is probably best to keep him in place. Like, he would make so much of a better high point person in comparison to like Morrison from, the early Xbox One days.
Yeah.
Leaving him in that position, I think, is the absolute right move. Now, should there be somebody to slide into his kind of older position where they just focus on Xbox? I think that needs to be looked at. Not saying that he isn't doing the greatest of job, but he is going to be responsible for a wide gambit of things. He needs to have a team under him that is going to be able to focus specifically on hardware, focus specifically on first party, focus specifically on, the individual publishing teams. If, whenever ABK is part of that whole mix. So I think there needs to be some restructuring, or just basically some people within the current team that have a designated role to fill in some of those areas that it seems like they keep on either stumbling or tripping over their feet. But the interview was great. Not for the circumstance that it occurred, but just the transparency and the candidness of it, I think, is the biggest thing. But there is some vision or visibility of some matters that need to be pinned down, resolved, and whatnot. And kudos to Phil for fessing up or owning up to the mistakes within the organization, and hopefully maybe the Friday afternoon meeting or maybe Monday morning meeting next week, some things can be hashed out. And I'm full in support of keeping Phil where he's at, because I don't think relegating him back to just head of Xbox is the right decision. I think his bigger vision for the overall brand is where it needs to be. It's just a matter of he needs people he can count on or rely on when he gives a command or task something to be done. It gets done, and he doesn't have to micromanage. I think that's probably at least from my standpoint, from being in the corporate world in the past, I think that's where the shortcomings are, is that he doesn't need to be a micromanager, and the management team under him need to either step up or be moved around about or something. That's all I got. Sorry for rambling.
No, and listen, this is a conversational podcast, and that's why people tune in, because we give our opinions. And listen, we're not a bunch of yes men. We give you opinions. Sometimes you don't like the opinion. I hear you, but you can do 2 things: have a counter opinion, or don't listen. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything for anybody, because this is I'm at the end of the day, we are all gamers. We are all fans, and our opinions do matter, even though they differ. Now, before I get into a particular quote from Phil that has been incredibly exploded out of proportion, and this is where the Xbox is getting out of the business. Phil doesn't care about Xbox gamers. I mean, listen, have your take, but if I hear it, I'm going to call you out on it, because that's a load of BS. I'm sorry. Shout out to Samurai S. Not only is he a new channel member, so Samurai, thank you so much for the generosity, but he drops a $20 bomb, and he says, I have to catch the replay. Awesome interview. Villain Phil, it's time to come out and play. I mean, see, a lot of people want him to be a little bit more, show his fangs a bit, as they say. Dear, your fangs are showing. Some people want Phil to show his fangs, and maybe they get back to a 360-esque kind of a deal. I mean, a lot is still riding on ABK, which is, we're all tired of talking about it. We thought it was going to be done. We're expecting Obviously this channel is going to be covering on the 23rd. The EU is going to render their decision. If it's blocked by them, the deal's dead. At least in my opinion. I don't think they're going to block. A lot of people don't think they're going to block. FOSS Patents thinks that it's going to go through because the EU is reasonable, and they're what they're doing. What Phil and team have been able to do is they had enough time to not only destroy the CMA's argument of cloud, which is ridiculous, but also show something like, for instance, Luna. Amazon's Luna launched into the UK for the first time, and they had instant access to 18 million players. Literally a turnkey became a player in streaming and cloud. So, there's that. And that information the CMA didn't have. Maybe that changes the CMA's opinion. We don't know. But this deal is not over yet, at least from some of the experts like Post Up, who's been talking about it. And, listen, it's going to be a long road. But at the end of the day, we're here for gamers. We have another one. Another super chat. Chef Trey drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Xbox 360 had 50 notable games I can think of immediately. This generation may be 5 at this point, and some are cross-generation. Yeah, I mean, that it's true. I mean, they don't have a lot of the same oomph, if you will, like Mass Effect and BioShock and a few others that they had, as Xbox 360 exclusives. I mean, he specifically said, folks, that not every game, I've been saying this for years, not every game is for every gamer. We're going to ship things that maybe you're not going to like. But his ideology, again, this is my opinion, folks, is sound. Not, I'm not a big RTS guy. But does that mean because I'm not, they shouldn't be in Xbox Game Pass for someone like Pong Soul, who's a monster fan of RTS games? Platformers. I'm a huge fan of platformers. Now, I haven't gotten my Banjo-Kazooie yet, which still breaks my heart. But when that game comes out, and I say hopefully when, there are going to be people like, why are you, like for instance, me and Colt Eastwood, I love Colt. We're very good friends. We met in real life. He's a gentleman. We are on opposite islands, man. He's like, no, we don't need a banjo in our life. And I'm swinging the banjo flag because I want a banjo game. Is he right? Am I right? No, but if you have a service, you have to have different games of different genres of every A, whether it's AA, AAA, single A, indie. You need a fresh variety of games for your service that are going to offer a plethora of games for every type of gamer. That's my spiel. But I want to talk about a particular quote, Crispy Bomb. This one was taken way out of proportion, and I'm very disappointed with some people. This is where I have no confidence in Phil conversation comes out, and I 1000% disagree. He says, and this is very simple, we're not in the business, Crispy, of out-counseling Sony or out-counseling Nintendo. Now, people are making a big deal over this, Crispy. And I think that he said, what are they? They're not going to conform and become PlayStation. PlayStation is doing their own thing. Nintendo are doing their own thing. I want Xbox to do their own thing. Yes, do I want, over-the-shoulder, story-driven games like Sony? Of course I do. Do I want platformers and kiddie-like content that you get on Nintendo? Yes, I do. I want that in a bag of chips. But I like what Microsoft is doing. Why are people taking this particular quote out of proportion?
Well, I mean, they're taking literally half of the quote. He also talked about the fact that you can't build something without being different.
Yes.
And that's not his exact words, but he was beating around the bush of the fact that they support. I mean, ID at Xbox is pretty big. It helps a lot of small developers. It is something that like you get your Vampire Survivor. you get things like that. Microsoft helps fund some of these games, people. And yes, they might release on PC. That's okay. Okay, they use that as their crux to say, you know what, we're going to sell on PC, and we're going to sell on Xbox, and we're going to sell on your mobile phone, and we're going to sell everywhere, because that's something that Sony's not doing. I mean, a lot of people, why don't you look in the mirror, dude? Like, can I get a multiplayer exclusive game from Sony? I mean,
Well, they're working on 12 of them.
But it's like, oh, when is it happening? I mean, you call out Xbox for this stuff, but what about these other companies like Nintendo? I mean, you're still playing games at 720p. Like, why are people so worried about what Xbox is doing? And it's one of those things, like, you look at Redfall. Yeah, it didn't review well. It's like me, I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna wait. And I did that with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is an amazing game. If you have written that game off, go download it, go play it. Because trust me, it is an amazing game.
2 different games, dude. Yeah.
And it started out as a cross-gen. And by the way, cross-gen, are we going to talk about that? Because guess what? Like, every Sony exclusive just about has been cross-generation. So who's really trying to push to the new? Okay? Like, let's be honest here. We have to realize that Xbox has certain aspects that are more important to them than anything else, including being inclusive, accessibility, the way you want to play the game. These are all things that these other two companies aren't doing. So when it comes to console, they look at it and say, well, guess what? They already have a foothold. They've already destroyed us this generation. And when he brought up the Xbox One part of it, losing that generation, if you really look at it, when it comes down to it, that's where we all built our digital libraries. I happen to be an Xbox One player because they came out with Gears of War Ultimate Edition. I said, oh, you got another Gears coming. Here we go. That's when I bought an Xbox. Okay. I didn't like all the 2013 BS. Okay. But when they went back to their roots a little bit, and I think they need to do that in a way. I think they need to, bring back, kind of, this hard A mentality and say, you know what, you got to deliver. And this is where I'm like, I mean, what do you expect? Do you think that they're going to just blow out the water? Starfield comes out and people are selling their PlayStations and only playing on Xbox. I mean, you provide something that, allows like many different avenues to be a part of. They are trying to sell you to be a member of Game Pass. This is what they're doing. They don't care how you do it. And that's the point. You want to go over context and say, oh, well, he's doom and gloom, and like, it's never gonna. They don't care about consoles, people. They care about you subbing to their service. This is Microsoft.
Yep.
Have we not seen them do this with Windows and everything else? This is what they want. Is it a bad thing to be able to play some of these games at $15 a month? No, I'm still a sub at Netflix, and they've raised the price from 10 to almost 18 at this point. So I don't know what to tell you, as long as the content is coming. And I think that's where he admittedly is like, we need to have a really good game every quarter. And that comes from our exclusive.
Matter of fact, he actually confirmed that. Crispy, that's a fantastic point, where he actually said specifically in this interview, which again, he got me super excited because he confirmed, Crispy, exactly what you just said. We've gotten to the point now, looking down the road, that we will have a big first party game every quarter. Now, and he also added to that, not every game we're going to ship is going to be for everyone, but it's going to be a big game nonetheless. I think that that quote has been we've been holding their toes to the fire, because remember, they said it, and if you say something, you got to stick to it. And apparently, thanks to this interview, we know that one AAA first party game per quarter is coming. He confirmed it. Good point, Crispy.
And that's the point, dude. Like, look, if he wanted to double down and backtrack or whatever and just say, we don't know what's happening yet, I would have respected that as well. But I would also been like, dude, like, well, what are we doing? Because
Uh-huh.
you talked like this before. He even called himself out with a 12-month thing.
Yeah, he did.
These are things that I say, you know what? Because a lot of people don't know. I'm a manager. I manage technically in my store a $2.5 million business. Okay. And when my team screws up, guess what? I say ultimately it's on me. All right. And that's being a leader. And you know what?
Yep.
That's why my team respects me, because I say, you know what? It is my fault. I didn't communicate correctly. I didn't do the job I should. And I have been there. And that's where I looked at him and I said, he's pissed. He's defeated in a way, but he's also going to brush himself off, pick himself back up, and say, you know what? It is time to be more fluid with the situation. If he's got to, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what Matt Booty does. And I've seen a lot of people bring that up. I really don't. I feel like
well, you know what it is?
I
He's
feel
very
like Sarah
private.
Bond.
Yeah.
I feel like they should, put Matt Booty somewhere else. Sarah Bond should be in charge of that. That's it. She is open, honest, and I'll tell you right now, I feel like she will get into the weeds, get into the thick of things, and really be that person that Phil can rely on to say, you know what, Phil, we got to delay this and we got to bring in the cavalry, because they have a cavalry. I mean, we talk about the coalition, and this is where I'm a little upset. And I said it, and I felt it when he said it. The coalition is kind of a support studio right now. And it's really hard for me to say, but as I've seen some of the things that I've seen, I say, you always are bringing up the coalition when it comes to Unreal Engine. And
the experts.
It's not like everybody's like, oh, they're supposed to make a game and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, but you're allowing them to continue to learn these tools better and better and work on different games, which makes them as a studio even better. Because when they come back together and they get all of these ideas from all these other studios, they say, okay, we can do something really cool. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm looking forward to. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm hearing that Gear 6 ain't going to come out for a while. Like I thought it was 2024, 2025. It might be 2026. I don't know, unless they surprise us in June. But I mean, we're hearing voice actors aren't doing. So I look at these things like even Rare hasn't been really doing anything. And it feels like they're a support studio. They've been brought up multiple times. You know what I'm saying? So that's not the worst thing, though, because these people aren't leaving. And they're also like, hey, like I get to work on this different game that has nothing to do with me. And I think that's where I had brought up that, Bethesda needs to, reach out a little better. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Starfield's on everybody's radar. So of course, Phil's going to be very hyper focused on that. Yeah. And that's where you go and see they brought in the cavalry in a way. Okay. But some of these other games that are very important, like Redfall is very important for the May window, May, June, right up until the showcase. That was very important. And they dropped the ball. So what do you want the guy to do? Make excuses? Do you want him to just resign because of one game? I mean, what do you really want? You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, do you really expect with, Sony having, I mean, the one generation, they had a way larger lead than they do now. And that's not to say that, Starfield couldn't move the needle as long as it's on point. But he's admitting the fact that you can't beat somebody that's in the trench already. You know what I'm saying? You have to build your own trench and work around it somehow. And that's what they're doing. And I respect that. And I think a lot of people need to actually watch the whole thing instead of taking these small tidbits because somebody was lazy and said, oh, I heard this is what it is. And that's where I think a lot of this craziness is coming out of. And I think it's disrespectful to gamers themselves, because I feel like Xbox, without them, we wouldn't see a lot of these small games coming out that are really important to people. I mean, Nintendo lives on that platform with these small games that aren't their exclusives, and they work. You know what I'm saying? And Xbox has supported that. They brought Ori over there. They've even brought Outer Worlds and stuff like
How
that.
about Ravenlock that just released the other day? That's going to be an indie darling. I mean, I haven't had a chance to play. I downloaded it. Benedict Fox also got overshadowed by a lot of the Redfall shenanigans. It launched up against some other big games. Jedi Survivor, ate its lunch.
And I want to
this
bring up
long
this
time.
last point after you just said that. You see a lot of games that hit different on PC.
Yeah.
And they're games that are built by small developers that do things a lot different. And then all of a sudden it catches fire. Okay? Shame on Xbox for trying to get into that and bringing it to console players. Shame on them. Come on, people. Like seriously, it is a good thing. And you know what? I hope they continue to do it because innovation comes from people that aren't getting paid millions of dollars. It's the ones that are breaking their back and sitting there for 12, 14 hours trying to create something that is different. And I think that is very important when it comes to gaming.
1,000%, dude. A fantastic breakdown of this quote. But I want to continue to quote because there are people asking for the more context. So I'm going to give it to you, Dave. This is what Phil exactly said that got everyone bent out of shape.
Yep.
There really isn't a great solution or win for us. And I know this will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter when you're in third place in the console market. And the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, a very, very discreet focus on doing deals and other things that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, nobody else. He continues, I see commentary that that if you just built great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true. That if we go and build great games, then all of a sudden you're going to see the console share shift in a dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everyone built their digital libraries of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focus more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Now, that's a lot to take in.
Yep, I got it.
And that was that.
Go ahead.
Oh, that is specifically where people are now questioning whether or not he's thrown in the towel or he's waving the white flag. And I can see if you feel based on the way he explained being in third place, then you're absolutely entitled to that opinion. I don't agree that he is throwing in the towel or he's not going to make great games. Folks,
He is not.
They have made great games and they will continue to make great games.
Yep.
But I mean, listen, all I can say is that you are, of the near 600 people that we have here, you are a consumer. The best thing that you can do for yourself and to tell other companies that you are happy or dissatisfied with their services is to not support the particular brand that's letting you down. If Xbox isn't your brand and you feel that, they can't do any more for you, then that's you're entitled to that. I don't see that. I see an incredibly bright future for Xbox, but also from a very privileged point of view, I support all three consoles. So when Sony releases a big game like Spider-Man 2 later this year, I'm going to stop playing everything else to play this game because I'm a fan of Spider-Man, fan of Miles, and more so Kraven the Hunter and Venom. So this game is going to be big. I'm a huge fan of Insomniac, and I will play this. I will probably platinum this game. When Nintendo's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom comes out next week, I'm stopping everything because I want to play that game. I beat Breath of the Wild twice. It's probably one of my favorite Zeldas of all time, and this one looks insane. I cannot wait to play. I'm having a blast with Redfall, as I've said. I'm going to go back to Jedi Survivor. It's had a lot of bugs. It's kind of soured my mood on that. I mean, again, there's a lot of bugs for a lot of games. So I'm privileged that I support multiple platforms and I go where the games are. The one thing I want to get your opinion on this is that, do you feel, based on this quote, and there's a couple of paragraphs that I read, that he is insinuating in any way that Xbox can't, but more importantly, Dave, won't compete with
No,
Nintendo and PlayStation?
no, no. I've already got answers right here in my head. Boom, I'm ready to go. Let me at this one. I'm jumping at the bit.
Listen, chew on the steak all you want, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, because somebody even said in chat, he said Phil's waving the flag or whatever, and that's bullshit. Okay, let me just tell you this right now. When Phil said that, he wasn't meaning that the war is over, that we've lost. That's what some of the fanboys are trying to run with, the way they mistook his statement. What he's saying is that there are people that have a digital footprint already, and I have them on several different platforms. I have digital games in both ecosystem for Nintendo and for PlayStation, and a lot for Xbox. That just because they make the greatest game in the world, even if he said Starfield was 11 out of 10, he said, then you're not just going to get rid of your PlayStation. That's stupid. You wouldn't do that. The big message and the big goal and the big focus of Phil is that he is taking the company forward. His pledge that he wants to get Microsoft up to 3 billion people in Game Pass at some point is still the goal. That's where he wants to get people to be. So they're going to make great games. They're going to continue to make great games. Yes, they've had some missteps. It does happen. He's going to be refocused on getting through this rough patch and to get us into, quote unquote, the promised land. So let me tell you, he's not dropping the ball. He is not going to give in the towel. He's not giving in, not giving up. And Xbox is going to be stronger and better than ever. By the time this generation is over, we will look back at this as just a bump in the road. I'm guaranteeing you that they have got a big roadmap plan for how they're going to get to that 3 billion players in Game Pass. And Game Pass is going to be the key to the future, not just consoles. They're not going to give up on consoles. They're still going to stay focused on consoles. They may not sell the most consoles because you can get Game Pass and play everywhere. In the ecosystem of Microsoft, the big win is gamers that are engaged in the ecosystem on a regular basis. That's where their focus is, because that, in the long run, is where they're going to make the most money. High-end console gaming, high-end PC gaming, handheld gaming, phone gaming, mobile games, all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the big plan to get them to where they need to be. And Microsoft eventually, with their plan, and I believe it's a good one, is going to get to the promised land of being eventually the leader in gaming, and not just consoles, but overall in the industry. So guys, like I said, I'm sorry I went on a rant there, but it frustrates me when people twist it to
Yeah.
where he's like, who's giving in towel? Let's just give up. And a lot of course, the fanboys are like, and oh my God, we had a few earlier. Shout out to Lethal Papa. He is amazing.
Well, I mean, I put it this way, if Lethal Papa is an absolute gentleman, he does not ban people for no reason, but has full authority to do so. I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you're a troll, first of all, your opinions matter here. Okay, if you have a different opinion than mine, that's awesome. The minute you start becoming belligerent or disrespectful, you're going to get the boot. I don't care about your sub, and I don't care about your view if that's how you're going to be. Okay. I mean, listen, I do care, which is why I stream 5 days a week, but I'm not going to stand for any bullying. I'm not going to stand for any shenanigans. And Lethal Papa, who is the moderator here, like he knows his business. He moderates for most of the bigger shows.
Yes,
I'm very thankful that he's here each and every week to moderate for me. I can't thank him enough for that. I do want to address Joseph Saga in the chat. He says, stop making S up. If you guys want better and complete games and start to criticize them, we deserve better. Indeed, we deserve better. But see, I don't know, Joseph, you just found the channel for the first time. I give Microsoft righteous smoke on a regular basis because they've earned that. We're not a bunch of yes men here. We are specifically talking about the Phil Spencer interview where he took the blame for Redfall's failing and put it on his back as a good leader should. And then we're gonna on the second half of the show, we're gonna get into what he specifically said for the big show that's coming in June. I mean, like I said, you're welcome to stay, brother. Everyone is welcome here. But I think you're a little out of line. You're saying that we don't ask for better. I 1,000% disagree with that. Like I consistently give them the righteous smoke because you have to. I do want better. I do expect better. I am a customer at the core. I'm a gamer at my core, and on the outside of that, I also am a podcaster. So, like I said, welcome to the show. But I think you're a little off with that because we do give Microsoft the righteous smoke as it were. Um, Fuzzy, let's get your take on these quotes. You have been very today is I love the way that you have projected your discontent for some of the things that have been done, and rightfully so. Some people are suggesting this is Phil Spencer waving the white flag. Of course I disagree. What's your take on it?
I don't think it's him waving the white flag. I think it's more of a reality check as far as you can't instantly change the console leadership in the sense that it takes time. It may even take a whole generation. Like if you want to look back at like 360 versus PS3, it took PS3 to the end of the generation to actually come close to catching up. And it's only because they kept on selling the PS3s to eventually match the number of the 360. Now, as far as the following generation, obviously we all were there, or not all of us, but a lot of us were there for 2013, 2014, where basically early on Xbox One was doing well, but towards the I guess 6-month period from there on out, it was like a ultimate stomping where it was like almost 4 consoles sold to each Xbox One that was out there type of deal. So if you're going to try to claw back at some of the market share, it takes time. And I think people forget that not only games take time, but actually overall, market leadership and things along those lines take time. Now, I think his example as far as saying, Starfield being an 11 out of 10, it could actually be that 11 out of 10, and people are still going to find fault or find problems with overall Xbox, or they'll claim, well, this was, none of Xbox is doing. This is all Bethesda because before the acquisition, this was already in development. It's, the narratives constantly go on and on as far as that's concerned. But you're not waving the white flag if you're trying to acquire or make a $70 billion acquisition. You're not waving the white flag, when you have less than 3 or 4 weeks to your big showcase, where you've even already in the same interview mentioned that there are going to be plenty of things as far as follow-ups on already known titles as well as some unknown titles. So people have been saying Xbox is getting out of the console or gaming business since the original Xbox. I think it's 21 years now, 22 years, and they still ain't got stuff right. So
it came out in 2000. 2001. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So if Xbox has been getting out of the business ever since they've been in it, eventually I guess they'll be right. But maybe that's 60 years from now. Maybe when nobody's playing consoles and we all have our own holodecks in our basements or whatever. I don't know. But Xbox isn't getting out of the business anytime soon. Have they had some stumbles? Yes. Has PlayStation had some stumbles? Yes. So I don't see people saying, oh, it's the end of PlayStation. Like after Drive Club, like this is coming from somebody that was more so a PlayStation person during the PS3 generation and early PS4 generation. I didn't hear the same, rhetoric as far as, Drive Club came out to an absolute utter S show. And then the same thing for No Man's Sky. Did people say, oh, PlayStation's going out of business? No. So why is it the same energy, always about Xbox? Oh, they stumbled here. Well, they also released Hi-Fi Rush. They also had, Publisher of the Year in 2021. Yeah, 2022 was a little sparse,
Yep.
but
He mentioned that
as far
too.
as first
He actually
party,
made mention of that.
yeah, but first party PlayStation is a little sparse this year too. So I, it goes on and on where people want their narrative to eventually be true, and they I guess they figure if they say it enough, maybe it will be true. But I think the bigger takeaway on his comment about you're not going to like over it it's it I interpret it as you're not going to change the market share overnight. And with console not being the primary focus, which I know that may be a little rough for some of us that are Xbox centric, but the console is not the focus. They want to be able to have you play the games on TVs, PCs, portables, mobile phones, everything. So would they like to sell more consoles? Absolutely.
100%.
But
Yeah.
that's not where the money is. I mean, even PlayStation will tell you this because yes, while they've been selling a ton of consoles, there isn't as much profit in selling a console as there is selling the software. And once again, they even made mention that their software sales are down. So it's one of these things where I guess people want to cherry pick certain things to fit whatever
Whatever
vantage point
narrative they're
or
trying
art
to
or
paint.
narrative
Yeah.
they have. But the grand scheme of things is I didn't take it as them stopping making great games. They're going to continue their best to do, produce great games or games that their fan base as well as those outside their fan base may enjoy and hopefully will partake in, whether it be through Game Pass on their TV, phone, or computer, or pick up a series console, whatever the case may be. But I don't foresee that conversation as far as where they're somehow throwing in the towel, even being in grounded in reality. Like there are so many different things that would have to have occurred. Like if tomorrow or next week we find out Phil Spencer's no longer in his position and they close some studios, then maybe there'll be more, I guess truth or momentum to the saying, oh, they're throwing in the towel. But I don't foresee that happening. I just foresee this being one of those unfortunate repeated bumps in the road that, much like when we were talking about PlayStation stepping on a rake and, every turn they make, this is one of those times that Xbox has kind of stepped on the rake, tripped over it, backed up and hit the other rake behind them kind of thing. But, with the showcase coming, in a matter of weeks, Starfield, I maybe not as confident on the 60 frames aspect, but confident in the game in general. And then there's Forza, which I'm not going to say, oh, well, Turn 10 never misses, but no, Turn 10 is going to deliver what I am looking forward to. And I think if you look at the big picture of what Xbox is producing, there's always going to be something for someone that's enjoying a particular form of gaming, whether it's platformers, racers, first person shooters, third person shooters, whatever the case is, they're going to have something to, for you to enjoy in that service or even outside the service if you don't believe in subscriptions type of thing. But I in we always talk about gamers memory, it's like they forget, what have you done for me lately kind of thing. I think in about 4 weeks the conversation will be completely different. And with the exception of people, I guess retweeting a 2020 post from PlayStation, where's their showcase? I don't know. When are they going to announce something
Still haven't scheduled one
beyond
yet.
Spider-Man? So we'll see. But
yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I can't tell you where to put your money, and I refuse to do that. I am invested in Xbox. That's my favorite platform. It will continue to do that until something happens that changes my mind. I have PlayStation for their dominant first-party story-driven titles. I have Nintendo Switch before because I'm a Nintendo kid, folks. I had my first Nintendo when I was 15 or when I was 14 and in 85 when it came out. And there you go. So I was, I've always liked their product. For me, it's Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation is last. But I still support PlayStation. And again, I'm not a big fan of Sony at all. I hate the way they rake people over the coals. But, you can't deny their quality. I want to talk about the show that's coming in just about 3 weeks. It is the June 11th show. It has been confirmed or reaffirmed, I should say, by Phil Spencer during this interview. Paris Lilly asked some really hard hitting questions about what we were going to see in regards to update. He expressed the frustration of the Xbox community not having updates on games that were announced a long time ago. And he's not wrong. Those frustrations are real. We all want to know what's happening with Fable and Avowed and Indiana Jones and pick whatever your favorite game that has not made an appearance on your console. There's a lot of them. They have a lot of games in development. State of Decay 3 is another one. We know that the Coalition is helping with that game. How much I couldn't tell you, but I know that they're helping with that game, and it's I have high expectations for it. But before I get to Crispy, I do want to catch up on the super chats. There's been quite a few of them. Chris R in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I had to remind myself that we have been in this generation for almost 3 years. I'm hopeful, but I'm disappointed so far, to be honest. It's been a very slow drip, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong for saying so. We're closing in this November on 3 years of the console, and Nintendo's Switch even longer, and they're still putting out 720p games, but it's selling because their games are really, really good. Abnormal Status drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Xbox needs all types of games, not just adult-driven. 50 million units of Mario Kart says not just adults play games. I mean, I've been saying that. I don't want to get on my tangent, but I'm waiting for something to come the way of family-related IP from Microsoft. Hopefully that happens. We also have John White in the chat. He drops a very generous $10 super chat, and he says the issue is Xbox is building a vision based on a false premise. Your own PlayStation or your own PS because you want those great games. PS guys will buy an Xbox if the games are deniable. Yeah, he made mention of a digital library, folks. I don't think that you're going to see, and he said it, that if Starfield winds up being this 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10 game, that people are going to sell their PlayStations. I said from the jump, and you can go and check all the podcasts I've actually said this on. This is going to be one of those generations that allow for players to have more than just one dedicated console, because everything is so accessible, and so to some extent affordable for the consoles. Like I said, Microsoft, keeping with Xbox, they give you the ability to play on a multitude of screens, where Sony doesn't do that. Sony doesn't do day and date for PC, right? They don't do day and date for streaming. They don't do day and date for cloud. Microsoft does that. So if you are someone that doesn't own an actual physical Xbox, it's okay for you to go play on your TV or go play on your PC, your $5,000 rig, and say, yeah, I'm running 7,000 frames. I don't want to play on console. That's freaking awesome. But a great post, and thank you for the generosity. Whole Grain Bread drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, love how people will talk about console sales going down, but won't mention services, Game Pass revenue going up. That means that they've gained subs while losing sales. I mean, they made $1 billion in 3 months, folks, in their last quarter on Game Pass. What can I say? I mean, should it have been 2 billion, 5 billion? I don't know. I mean, that's up to the eye of the beholder. But they made $1 billion, folks, with a B. They're still making money. Frederick Williams drops a very generous $5 super chat. Oh no, hold on. Sorry. Before you, Frederick, we have Hitman drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. Says, hey guys, question. Would you guys prefer AAA games from Xbox come in smaller scope, episodic, like Hellblade? Nope. It's got to be a full game. It's got to straight up be, I'm not going to use the B word. It's got to be on the level. If you're talking AAA and you want to match Sony, it's got to be, Hellblade has to hit. And it cannot be episodic. It cannot be broken into parts. It needs to be a front, a middle, and an end, and maybe some bonus content on the back end. That's how it has to hit. All of their games have to hit like that, because I mean, it's a great ideology, Hitman. But like for instance, speaking of Hitman, how they did their game where they broke it up into parts. A lot of people like that. I didn't like that. I want the full package.
I think you
Um,
could probably try it with like DLC for some games. Like
yeah, you
I
could.
can't think of a good example right now, but like if some of the DLC, if it's more frequent, like let's say every 3 months kind of thing, and you have a full game to start off and just load it with those three DLCs for the remainder of the year, I think that could work, but it has to be a
That could
certain
work
type
on
of
something
game.
like State of Decay 3, where
Yeah.
new story beats or new areas could be dropped in every 3 months, every 90 days to give you something to do or explore or tell stories of other survivors. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that working there. That's a great point, Fuzzy. Frederick Williams drops a very generous $5 super chat and says this. I think Phil just meant that they have to carve out their own place in the industry by following a different path. That's exactly what he said, brother. Fantastic point, Frederick. Tim the Sorcerer drops a very generous £2 super chat and says, Xbox has the best kids game around Roblox. Yeah, I know, dude, but I mean, and Roblox is huge. I totally get it. But I need in my life traditional platformers like you see on Nintendo's platform, and they have the IP to do it. They have plenty of amazing IP, specifically Banjo Kazooie, my one dream. Gamers Play HUD Zero, just a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Hey Boom and panel, Xbox still needs to prove that they can make amazing high quality games. Indeed, they do. No matter the genre, first party needs to be the standard on Game Pass. 1,000%, brother. They absolutely have to deliver. They have delivered in drips of drabs, but we all want the most important thing with Xbox first party, and that is a solid cadence of releases that are on par with Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, God of War, and Horizon. We want those kind of experiences on your Xbox, and you're not wrong for asking. But Crispy Bomb, I want to get to you and talk about the confirmation for the June show, the June 11th show. We know what to expect. It is going to be Phil laid it out for us. We're going to get updates on some older games that we knew were in development for a long time, potentially Fable, Avowed, State of Decay 3. Those particular ones were mentioned by Paris Lilly during the interview, and Phil confirmed we are going to get an update to some of those games on his list. But we're also going to get a bunch of new games that we've never seen before, which has me excited. Maybe we get a chance to see what In Exile is working on in their AAA first person shooter. Maybe we get a chance to finally see what Compulsion has been working on. Maybe we get a chance to see, Indiana Jones potentially by Machine Games. After the interview, what are your personal expectations for the show coming in a couple of weeks?
Well, I was like holding expectations and saying, we've been through this before. After this interview, I feel, number one, he admitted that the 12-month thing was stupid.
Yep.
He admitted that. I feel like we're going to get a lot of future stuff, maybe you get something that says slated for 2024 or 2025. Probably not. I think the best thing to do is announce some of these IP and say, we're working on it. Here's a little snippet. It might be some CG and stuff. It's okay, people. I've seen it from PlayStation a lot. I mean, right now, what do you have coming on your console? Spider-Man 2? When?
One game.
When?
Mhm.
This year? I caution you. I caution you for that. Hellblade, I feel like it's going to be there. And the one thing I'll say is that it sucks because it's my favorite studio is probably sitting there helping them through UE5 and making sure that this game is ready to roll. I also think that, Phil is looking at everything now and saying, we have games that are slated that we don't know about it. And if they're using a certain engine, we need to have those studios that are much better with that engine in there. So I'm at the opinion where, I mean, Avowed, Obsidian, they're masters at what they do. They don't need any help. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're going to see something from Avowed. I think Hellblade 2 might be announced for fall. I think, Forza might be right before, a few months before Hellblade, in between Starfield, or they push it all the way to December and say, what are we going to win? Racer of the Year? Like, really? Let's just put it, after everybody gets their console and, hey, here's Forza. And I also look at the fact that they are playing a game that is a little different. Right now, we have so many games that they have talked about in some way, shape, or form that are just sitting there. That, imagine a shadow drop. Imagine something that hasn't been talked about in a while. What are certain studios doing? Some of them have been so quiet, it's incredible. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say that even though, like, a part of the coalition is working on this, that they couldn't drop the Phoenix Collection remade in UE5? I mean, is that a possibility? I think
I'd love it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because how are you going to ramp up? Get these younger people to kind of be like, wow, like, I forgot how good this is, type thing. And I think you need a little of that too. And to go and say that, he was talking about controller in hand. I feel like they might go a little old school in some of these games and have literally somebody come on stage and have the controller in hand. I think that would be really cool, because you don't see it much anymore. It's not just a stream. It's somebody walking out there. And you know what? If it screws up, well, I'll take that over, the ladder. Like, and then the transparency. I think you're going to see a lot of, this is running on the Series X type stuff. This is running on PC. I think they're going to be very deliberate and how they talk about, where it's going. You're going to see, like, it's not going to be just like little tiny print. It's going to be like, this is running on the Xbox Series X, and you see it right on the screen. I think there's going to be a lot of things that they do a little bit different, just because they screwed up. We all thought this was going to be 60 FPS. We all did. Yeah. And Phil said, hey, you know what? We brought the cavalry late. We should have done that last year. Yep. And we weren't paying attention enough. And I mean, really, we're talking about ABK deal. That man has been enveloped in it. Like, let's be honest here. This is not, he has a priority right now. And yes, it's been shut down in a way, but it's not dead. But at the same time, now he's got to refocus. Let the lawyers handle that. Phil, you gotta go for the gaming aspect. You gotta say, the console matters. You gotta be fully enveloped. We have enough time that they can change things, see what the teams are doing. He's got to get his hands dirty, and I think he is. And that's what I saw from him. So I feel like June, I have mid expectations, as I always do, but I feel like I could be blown out the water. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna hold my mid expectation, but I caution people to say, look, like Fuzzy said, you haven't seen many you see state of plays, you see Nintendo Directs. Right. I mean, Xbox could do that all day, but at the end of the day, we do love our showcase, do we not? Yeah, I mean, do we love future telling? Do we not love, what is to come? Like, and that's for the 12-month thing, the last showcase. I liked it, but I didn't, and they didn't deliver. So don't put your expectations to that. Let's go forward and say, you know what? We are working on a ton of games, and some of these games you need to have the dev or even a Twitch streamer or something that's really into those type of games. Throw them on stage, let them play the game in front of the people. I think that would be an amazing thing. I think people would, because nowadays with technology, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be the hiccups that we've seen in years before. I think it would be something that people would be like, wow, they are really playing this game right in front of us. And they say, this is running on the Series X, or even have the Series X sitting on a table right in front of them. You know what I mean? Light on, ready to roll, and do that type of thing. Be so transparent that nobody can deny what they're seeing. And I think that would be super important, especially for these games that have been in development for a while.
I agree. Again, vertical slices. People want to see gameplay. I think that something like Fable, that's been in development from what we understand, since 2018. The same thing for State of Decay 3. Avowed has been worked on for a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years. We would like to see some vertical slices of gameplay. I think a lot of people will walk away from that incredibly surprised. I have a strong suspicion that this is going to be a dynamite show. I mean, look, you guys and gals heard me talk about this. I said after the ABK block and the Redfall situation, they potentially would be limping into the showcase. And Phil Spencer has confirmed that in fact not only is not the case, but he has confirmed that we are going to get new games that we didn't know they were working on. He said some surprises, and we're also going to get updates to a lot of the games we know are coming. That is getting me excited as a fan. My most anticipated game out of everything is Fable. I'd like to see what's going on with that game. And like I said, I'm very fortunate. It's a very small channel, but I know somebody on the dev team, and I can tell you that I have been assured when we see it, it is going to blow people's minds. And that's fantastic. And that's what Xbox gamers want out of their console and their investment into the platform. Dave, I want to get to you, brother, but before I do, I gotta catch up on some of these incredible super chats. Torino Johnson drops a very generous $5 super chat. Torino, thank you so much for that. Rami Ren drops a $5 super chat and says, greetings from India. Oh my goodness, dude, that is awesome. Welcome. He goes on to say, one of the few gaming podcasts I follow, and due to the 12-hour time difference, it's best to listen to while on my drive home from work. Well, that is awesome, dude. Thank you so much for supporting the channel with your view and your sub, and I hope that you are enjoying the content. Highlander 001, good friend of the program, has been a channel member for almost a year, says, I say move from contract developers to and hire them full time, or is it a management problem at the studio? Something has to change, or heads need to roll. Phil Spencer said it. They need to run a tighter ship. That's just a fact, folks. They need to kind of circle the wagons, and we know that Microsoft has an ideology on how their developers work, how their teams work on these games. There's no crunch. Which again, some people argue. I'm not saying that these human beings that make games should be chained to their desk for 17 hours a day. If you subscribe to that, then you're just a knucklehead. But with that said, we definitely have to hold them to task when games come out and they're not as polished, or they're not what you're expecting. And as a consumer, yes, I think there needs to be some changes in the way management is done. Maybe Matt Booty needs some help. Maybe 23 studios is too much for one dude to oversee, which is why Bethesda is run by Pete Hines and Todd Howard. Change has to come for sure. We also have Brett Bingham drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, Phil did say collection of games in his interview on the Kind of Funny podcast. Yeah, he did. Collections with an S. What exactly that means, for me anyway, it means a ton of games. Gaming Nerd Austria drops a very generous 10 pound super chat and says, I respect Phil for all he said, but maybe all Xbox studios be creatively free is the wrong way. Xbox could take a few studios which are doing games based on Sony's formula for the casuals. Just asking. I mean, I don't think that's a wrong request. I think there are some studios that do not need over supervision. The Coalition being one of those studios. Obsidian being one of those studios. Ninja Theory being one of those studios. 343, not so much. And we know there's big change over there. So I think that maybe the ones that have not delivered for the platform might need, I don't want to say a boot in the ass, but they might need a little more keen eyes on the studio to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. That's a fantastic point, Dave. Let's get your particular take on your excitement for the show. Was it lower before the Phil interview? Was it higher before the interview, or somewhere in the middle?
My anticipation of the show was wait and see until after his interview, and now I'm pretty pumped up. I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, this is their chance to right the ship, to set it on a course to get through the end of the year, and I believe that we will get the second half of and not quite everything. There'll be some things that that will drop at the Achilles, as it were, that'll kind of get us into the beginning of next year. But I believe we will at least get a good path on how we're going to get through the holidays, and then maybe some announcements of things coming out in the future. And I believe from the way he's talking, the 12-month type restraint is gone. That won't be happening. They won't throw that out there. I believe there'll be some games that will have release dates at this. Hopefully some of the bigger titles, such as Hellblade 2. I believe that should have a release
I mean,
date.
I think he might have let it slip, whether that's on
Maybe.
purpose or an accident. But
Yeah.
he mentioned 2023, and we have, and then he finished it off and kind of cut himself short with Hellblade. I think we all kind of feel or felt that Hellblade was releasing this year, but it would be, I mean, Dave, I mean, think about this. Let's say if the show is what everyone hopes that it is, and it shows the current, it shows a bit of what's coming next year, and shows the future, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, but Xbox isn't dead, which I never said it was anyway. And I don't think I think that's ridiculous, but it would be a pretty incredible year for Xbox, because they have released a ton, folks, of first party games just this year. Now, again, I want to make sure that this is clear. I totally get that not every game is for you, but that does not take away from the fact that this is a complete 360, no pun intended, to last year's very, very disappointing 2022. And if they could bookend the year with opening up with Hi-Fi Rush, which by all accounts is still going to be in many people's circles game of the year, and you close it with a Hellblade that, and again, this is what I've heard behind the scenes, they have improved on everything of the original, and that is some that I have talked to said that we are graphically, we are going to literally be blown away. If they can bookend the year with a great show and two powerful first party games, I say that's a dynamite year. There's Dave.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, and Starfield is still coming.
Yeah.
And Forza most likely is still coming. I mean, oh my gosh. And then there will be, I'm sure, probably some Game Pass announcements. That will be some games that will come day and date into Game Pass that we don't know anything about yet.
Maybe there's even a shadow drop.
Could be. And there'll probably be some other announcements. Do we think the ABK deal will be done by then? No. But that doesn't mean that they won't have a few little things up their sleeve, little tricks up their sleeve. And they've been focused on that for a reason, and it's a good reason. But I believe that they are ready to get their core excited again, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. I don't think we're going to be disappointed, and I know you're going to have a big probably after show, and I look
Yeah, I'm gonna
forward
do a
to that.
post show because I actually won't do a live stream only because there's a lot of people doing live streams for that
Yep.
event, and I want to watch it as a fan. Like I
Yep.
kind of want to just watch it on my TV and then react to it. What I probably will do is we're probably going to have a monster panel, as you would imagine. We might do a pre-show, a 60-minute pre-show, because at that
That'd be
point,
cool.
some rumors will have, surfaced. Maybe we'll get a little information. Maybe we'll get some confirmation from someone like a Jez Corden or a Benji Sales or a Wario 64 or Shinobi 613. They're the popular cool kids on the socials,
Oh yeah.
and they usually get the stuff ahead of time. Maybe even Special Nick of Xbox Ever will drop a nugget or two, and we might have some ideology as to what is happening. But let's get Fuzzy
37
Belvin-
days away.
37 days away.
days away.
So Fuzzy, let's get your final take on this, brother. There were a lot of things done in this interview for me that I walked away not only impressed with Phil Spencer, I walked away satisfied as an Xbox gamer. My question to you specifically is, where does your confidence level now move to with the show that Dave said is now 37 days away?
It hasn't really changed much. Like, I was already excited for it regardless. But there are some things that he had made mention that kind of solidify what I was hoping for, as far as possibly a follow-up on existing titles like your Perfect Darks, like your Avoweds, and things along those lines, where they'll give us like maybe a status update, not CGI, but maybe in-engine stuff as far as some gameplay or vertical slice of sorts. I still think the show opens up with Forza. Just because that's the one that, it's not going to make it in that 12-month window, but it's still coming this year. They already have the show, the after show, diving into Starfield. So I think starting the show with Forza is a way that they kind of open things up and go into more detail with possibly a launch date and everything. But the key thing is, like you guys have mentioned, there's so many projects that they've kind of mentioned, whether it's like, Project Nightmare, which is, Compulsion's game, Project Cobalt, like In Exile. I think we get a peek at all of these, or at least a good bit of them. One that I'm also hoping that we get, like a status update, would be Everwild. I know that they went through like a soft reboot of sorts, figuring out the gameplay loop and things like that. But given how, what do you call it? Rare is done with Sea of Thieves, as far as, it had a little bit of a rough start. They kind of turned things around, and they've definitely expanded on that game and continue to support it, and the player base continues to return for more and more. I think they have a pretty good idea of where Everwild should be, or what they want to release as like another banger from them. But I think the overall is that we're going to get more of a roadmap. Sure, there's going to be some things that are not going to be playable within the next 12 months. I think him admitting that was a mistake. Hopefully they have learned enough from that mistake that, we want to see what we're going to play in the near future, but we also want to have a pretty good idea of what's coming down the pipeline. And things like that will help them, possibly either move more, consoles, or, add to the subscription base or whatnot. But one thing I do hope that they do bring up, or at least talk about, although it's not really game related, but it does help overall, would be the family plan for the for Game Pass. But outside of that, I think we just basically get a lot of updates on a lot of games. It's 2 hours between the two shows. I think an hour and a half for the main show, and then a half hour for the deep dive
Starfield.
for Starfield. But if they keep the gaps in between, and I won't say the talking to a minimum, because you still want to get some insight, like what they've done with the developer directs, um, where you get some of the gameplay as well as the developer talking about it a bit. I think if they go with that format, just extend it for like an hour and a half of all the games that they could fit in that time frame, I think we're going to be in for a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Listen, this has been a great 2 hours, folks. I just want to bring Dreadpool in for a second, who obviously has been working really hard. Hey, Dread, brother, thanks for popping in, saying hello.
No problem. Thanks for having me for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, you obviously made mention of it a couple of weeks ago that things are going to change a little bit for you because of work, and obviously work comes first because that's what pays the bills. But we're happy you popped in for a hot second. Did you get a chance to check out the Phil Spencer interview with Kind of Funny's Xcast?
I did.
So you know what? While you're here, we got a few minutes. Why don't you give us your hot take on it? What as an Xbox fan did you take away from it?
The sky's falling. Cats and
Yeah,
dogs.
it is. It's right. The
Making
world's
out.
over.
Yeah. So no, I mean, if when you look into it, at least people were asking about, hey, how come no one's spoken, no one's done anything? At least now there's a reason why Phil or any other Xbox personnel spoke about what was going on with the game, and just like he took it again, he went out there and took it on the chest. Not very many people will do that. They'll blame somebody else. They'll and that's the thing that Phil does. And it was obviously orchestrated for the timing, because they were trying to figure out when to talk, and it wasn't just hey, let's just put a thing out on Twitter and put a little memo out there that, sorry that you guys feel this way, we'll do better. None of that. He went out there and publicly took it on the chin, and said, look, we screwed up. We're gonna, this isn't about us trying to beat them. We're trying to be a better Xbox. And people are taking it the wrong way, like they're trying to back out. They're not. You wouldn't be trying to buy Activision if you weren't trying to be better and do better. And this is just one of those things that the game came out, and there's definitely miscommunication. There is definitely somebody there that was probably fearful for their job and didn't want to admit that this game isn't ready yet. While others were probably saying this game isn't ready yet. So again, they need to figure out a way to market this properly, because I heard some of the guys talking, we need to market properly and say, hey, look, this is what the PC looks like. This is what Xbox Series X looks like. And this is what the Xbox Series S looks like, and then, those 30 frames per second people that get sick can get sick watching it. Oh, I like my 120, but I can't handle 30, but yet you watch TV at 24. So that's fine. No problem. But do something like that. Let us know what it is. We already know that Starfield is coming out. We already know that Todd Howard says he likes his games at 30. Now, what we're going to get with the PC, fine. That's we get what we get because PC can scale up. People have 4090s that have no issues, or when they do, it's like, oh, the game's this and that. But at least this way, you see that he is trying to say, I'm sorry, and I'm trying to do better for you, for us, the consumers, right? Because he's not just doing it better for us, the consumers. He's also doing it better for Satya and the rest of the company. Think about that. It's not just us, but we are his moneymaker. So he has to apologize to us, which he did, and they're trying to do better. And they obviously need better checks and balances when it comes to game releases, the marketing of the games, all of that stuff. They need to do better, and he said we need to do better. So I think some of it has been blown out of proportion.
Yep.
A lot of it's just plain and simple, basic human nature. We screwed up. We got to fix it. We got to do better, and that's all you can ask for.
I agree. Well put. I mean, like we said in the opening, Dread, I don't know what more he can have done, what he could have done to put this any further on him as the leader. He came out because that was the question that was running around. Everyone was asking, who was going to respond to this controversy. Someone had to respond. Was it going to be Pete Hines? Was it going to be the producer of Redfall that dropped that let the cat out of the bag, that there was a PlayStation 5 version? He was told no longer that we're going to make this for our console. Was it Todd Howard, who has nothing to do with it, or was it going to be Matt Booty? Was it going to be Sarah Bond? No, it was the leader of Microsoft Game Studios, came forward, answered a lot of hard questions. Specifically, again, shout out to Snowbike Mike and the crew. As Phil was getting ready to get out the door, he specifically asked, will we get a definitive answer to the 30 frames versus 60 frames for Starfield this June? And he simply said, yes. I have a feeling that the reason why this was delayed almost a year after getting delayed originally is because of the 60 frame thing. And I think that there is going to be a quality mode. I think there's going to be a performance mode. And I think everyone's going to, again, just you saw some of the screenshots and some of the actual footage of the game. I think the game looks crazy good, but maybe I'm just a nerd. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's Breakfast with Boom. I cannot thank you enough. Yeah, Sir X-Men, I just checked my DM, brother. I'm gonna check that out right now. Thank you for that.
Brett Bingham chat. There's a super chat. Brett Bingham.
Yeah, Brett Bingham drops an additional very generous $5. Who says, "Don't buy the Phil needs to be fired and ride that Pony Express. Know that Phil still presents a threat to Sony's dominance." Oh, there's no doubt about it. Even without ABK, there is something to be said about,
he turned the ship around.
Yeah, I mean, is Microsoft ever going to be number one? I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you this: even if they got ABK tomorrow, and they have all those studios, and they have all these incredible first-party games, PlayStation, folks, you got to understand what Microsoft's up against. They're not going to not compete. But PlayStation, the PlayStation brand, think about this for a second, just for perspective before we get out of here. The PlayStation brand has earned its stripes. It is a powerful, powerful brand. So powerful that it is ranked number 7 on the planet of most recognized brands. Microsoft is somewhere in the 20s. I mean, Xbox is somewhere in like the 20s. Think about that for a second. Number 7 in the world. Now, they got themselves there by putting out some really great consoles and some really absolutely astounding first-party IP. Microsoft may never get to that, but that does not mean they're not going to be competing. That does not mean you're going to get more value for your buck on Microsoft, on the Xbox than you do on PlayStation. Again, value is in the eye of the beholder. Perfect example. Mag, very good personal friend of mine. A lot of people giving him a lot of shit. Don't give him shit because he quit Game Pass. He said the value did not equal his money. He's a consumer. He's allowed to say that. He's disappointed. He's been playing a lot on PlayStation for a multitude of reasons. And he's allowed to do that, folks. He is allowed to have his opinion. I mean, people are asking why announce it to the world. I don't know. He doesn't have a YouTube channel, so it's not for clicks. He's not trying to get your click or your sub. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. He just is frustrated. And some people are, and you are allowed to be. But with that said, let's get everyone out of here so you can start your weekend. I got a few things I got to do. And to be honest with you, I'm going to go back and play Redfall after this. Sorry if that pisses you off, but I just crossed 20 hours. I think I'm close to beating the game. And then I know people are going to be, boom, I don't understand how you're doing this. I'm going to start as another character, like straight up. I can't help myself. I love this game. I know it has flaws. It's broken in some areas beyond unbelievable, with the AI just being just dumb as a stump, but I'm still having so much fun. Dave, sell your brand, brother. Your Sunday guest is a good personal friend of mine, and he's a great friend of the community who is going to be joining you in Retry this Sunday. And more importantly, where could people help you right now cross 1K on YouTube? You're so close.
Well, let me just say this.
The man with the million.
Randall
you
Thor
go.
19
Nice.
will be our guest, our exclusive
That's
guest
awesome. I
on
love
Sunday's
Rand.
show. Me too. And super nice. And you got questions for Rand? You got things you want to talk about? Bring them. He is going to be there for the full 2 hours, and we are going to have an absolute blast. It is this Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the show starts. And it's going to be great. I just dropped the link in the
Nice.
chat. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and at least subscribe so that you can get the bell icon for at least this episode. And if you want to drop us after that, that's fine. But you don't want to miss this one. This one's going to be really good. And also on Monday, I will have a episode of the Outbreak Gamers, and that will be Lord Addict will be our guest for that one. So definitely want to check that one out. That drops on Monday.
Nice.
But Boom, thank you so much. The chat's been great and on fire, and so excited for what's to come. And great panel as always. And Boss Mod Lethal Papa, you were amazing.
Yeah, you sure was.
Beating down the trolls. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. Sometimes like he is so fair. I can't believe. Sometimes I'm like, get him out.
Get that
but,
guy.
Exactly.
Who the off
but
is
he's
this guy?
he's level headed. But when it comes down to it, he's like, nah. When you gotta go and Mods kicks you, you know that the boss is in the
Yeah,
house.
he's as fair as they come. Lethal Papa literally is this really if he gets rid of you, it's because you're being like a D-bag. And we don't stand for D-bags on this show. Crispy Bomb, welcome back, brother. You knocked it out of the park. You led the conversation as you should. Sell your brand, brother. Obviously, you're back here on Friday mornings, but where could people find you on other shows?
I have completely linearized life and podcasting. So, yeah, at Chris Baum on Twitter, Chris Baum 28 Xbox Live, and you can find me on the next podcast Thursdays 8 p.m. prime time, and of course back here on Breakfast with Boom Fridays 10 a.m. That is all. We'll see you then.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Real quick in the chat, where is it? Check my playlist. Says I'm enjoying, and I'm also enjoying Redfall. D-Batch has tweeted that we are all simps for liking this game. Look, D-Batch,
Yeah,
I know. Look. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Go up against a community like that. I'm personally not offended. He's frustrated. He's angry at Xbox. He's an Xbox guy. He's obviously on RDX with a good friend of this program, Dealer Gaming. Listen, I can't say whether that was the right thing to do. I wouldn't have said that. I think that if you're enjoying a game that maybe isn't complete, I say enjoy your game. What again, and I'm going to steal this from Everborn Saga. Don't chew my food for me. Let me chew my own food. So if you are someone in this community, in this chat right now, and you're having as much fun as I am, and I'm having an absolute blast where when I'm not playing Redfall, I'm thinking about playing Redfall. Does that make me a simp? Does that make me a poser? I personally don't think so. I'm having fun. I thought gaming, folks, was supposed to be about having fun. Now, again, opinions, folks, everyone has them, and I don't get offended by. Like I said, if you're offended by his statement, okay, that's your choice. I'm just not. He's not a malicious person. I really like D-Batch. I think he might have overplayed his hand, if you will, by calling everyone that's enjoying this game simps. I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Can I
Getting into his feelings a little bit.
Can I just say this?
Please go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I haven't listened to D-Batch many times over years, and he is a PC gamer, and he's supposed to tell us who play on console how we should feel and what is actually transpiring. That's not always the case. Actually, most games lately on PC ports or whatever you want to call them have been pretty trash. So I mean, spend all the money you want. I'll play my game. At least it doesn't feel broken. I mean, we've seen this several times over. It's my analogy. I own a Jeep, you own a Lambo. Well, when shit hits the fan, I'll run your butt over, and that's it. Because you know what?
It's fine.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
old and reliable, or reliable, or what I like, a console. That doesn't make you a bad person for liking a console. And I think that's the problem I have with many of his statements lately.
Yeah, it's fine. Lofty in the chat, good friend of the program's always here. Says, I respect you, Boom, but this game is broken to its core. It's missing basic modern shooter features. I can't get on board with it. I hear you, dude. Like, why aren't there grenades? How come there are no specialty, like sun grenades that or the UV light grenades that you saw like in Blade?
They're in movies. Put them in the game.
Yeah. There's a listen, folks. That's the thing. I have acknowledged that this game has a multitude of problems. My hope for it is that it gets the same love and attention that Sea of Thieves had when it came out. Sea of Thieves, when it launched, was bare bones and there was nothing to do. This game needs some TLC in AI. It needs some TLC on performance. It needs TLC in a lot of areas. Phil said live on the air that they're going to treat this like Sea of Thieves and Grounded. If that in fact stays true, and if he doesn't keep to his word, understand, I will give Phil the righteous smoke for that, because I really like the bones. The bones here is special. It's just broken in a lot of areas that it shouldn't be. It should not have been released this way. We all know that. But it's telling, if you're not having fun with it, folks, if you don't want to touch it until it's fixed, there are so many games to play. You're not missing anything. This game has its fangs in me. Pun intended. I don't know what else to say. But Fuzzy Belvedere, please sell your brand, brother. Talk about the best place for everything and anything racing. And where can people reach out to you on social media?
Just want to thank everybody for joining us this morning and everything. And it was awesome being here with you guys and everybody in the chat. And definitely big shout out to Lethal Papa. Definitely well-deserved mod of the year. I'm kind of rambling right now, but
No,
for
that's okay,
those that
brother.
want to hear my rants and rambles on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter at @fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also see me on Xbox Ultimate Podcast on Fun Speculations channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. And then Shop Podcast tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on PTK Blam's channel. And then right back here for the Xbox Lunch Break Special, 12 noon, right here on Double Barrel Gaming. Look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Thank you so much for that. And last but not least, Dread, let's throw your stuff up on the air for you.
I came in so last second. I don't even have it ready to throw up. So we'll just talk about it.
Yeah, sell your brand, brother. Talk about where people can actually subscribe to Breaking Bread with Dread, an amazing and very different way of podcasting. I think it's unique. It's special. It's not been done by anyone else. And I think that you should subscribe and definitely check out the content. Talk about it, brother.
Yes, thank you, Boom. Definitely, if you want to see some food, you want to hear some talk about whatever, and this is with personalities. It's not just gamers anymore. Breaking Bread with Dread on the Dreadpool channel and on Spotify and Apple and Google, pretty much anywhere podcasting. But the video will be on YouTube. And it's Dreadpool, all letters. On Twitter, it's Dreadpool. The O's are actually zeros. So again, thank you for letting me jump in the last minute.
Yeah. Right,
again, my apologies, but this is a pool party now, according to Casey. So, but yeah, I love you guys. Definitely check out Web Dave's channel. Get him up there to the 1K, and then we're gonna work on Fuzzy. You got to get him brought up too.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Awesome for like I said, love being here. Hate missing out, and it's just work is work. And got here as soon as I can, but definitely. Think about what you like, and I don't care if you have a 4090 and it's working or doesn't work according to others. Play where you like, And if the game's broken, the game's broken. But if you like it, even though the game's broken, I mean, how many times we used to play back in those days that broken games that could never be fixed, So now we're
Yeah.
complaining about it, that games can be fixed, and unfortunately, it could be the crutch. But let's not let that be our crutch. Let's move on
Oh,
and
guys.
enjoy the game. And I
No,
plan
it-
on streaming
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, no, listen, again, it's your horror guide. It's right up your alley. The game has problems, but yeah, Dave.
Boom. So Gaz jumped in chat.
Uh-oh.
Well, and
The
he has
Gears
his,
hater.
he has his alt, which is the septic sauce. And and he made one comment, and Boss Lethal Mama just kicked him out. It was so beautiful. I love Gaz.
I love Gaz. Gaz, you
I
listen,
do
brother.
too.
We love the energy that you bring to the to your channel, obviously, to the community. Love the source videos and everything.
Definitely.
I all I can say is that I know you have a very hard take on this, and it's Microsoft deserves the smoke. There's just no doubt about it. But like I said, I'm enjoying the game, even in its current state. I'm not going to make an excuse for that, brother. But we love you, guys. Love what you and Asa do.
Yes, we
love
do.
Game On Daily. And once again, Lethal Papa doing the Lord's work, if you will. But
Bringing the hammer.
let me close out the show. First of all, let me say thank you to all of the super chats. They were amazing, over generous, in my opinion. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It does give us a lot of leeway to fix things that are broken in regards to lighting and camera and mics. Also, more importantly, it does allow for me and Mrs. Boom to do the big giveaways. And last year we gave away $3,500 worth of gift cards. And again, we're one of the few channels that offer that support for international viewers as well. If you are someone outside of the United States and you win a prize, you're going to get it. Our only crux is that when we do send you the money. It's the money for whatever the prize is. It's got to be through PayPal because that protects us from scams. And we're one of the few channels that are willing to pay the transfer fee and anything else that comes with it. Because everyone that listens is not in the United States. People listen. We have someone here from India today, and if they want a prize at some point, I'm going to make sure that they do get that prize because it's only fair. And we can't do that without the channel membership and without the super chat. So a big thank you from Mrs. Boomstick and myself. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. That's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.